Hey, Steve Mignani here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with another high octane walkaround with a 1968 Pontiac GTO convertible. Now 68 was the fifth model year, I think, for GTO, 64, 5, 6, 7. Well, 68 was the first year for this body style. Some call it the Coke bottle style. It's rounded, quite different from the 67 back, which were more angular and straight. These also rode on a shorter wheelbase than the 67s, but with that, the horsepower went up in these. Now, when I see these things, I remind myself of Woodward Avenue and Pontiac engineers, guys like Jim Wangers, driving around with manufacturer plates, Michigan, vehicle manufacturer, with Ram Air 5 and Ram Air 6 and Ram Air 7 and whatever future engines under the hood, terrorizing the Ford and Mopar guys. Street racing and GTOs went hand in hand in Detroit and all over the world. Now, of course, that's a long time ago, and now these cars are, well, quite collectible, but they're still lots of fun. Now, 68 was also the first year for Pontiac's Enduraflex front bumper. This is a steel bumper. It's pretty tough, but it has about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so of rubber urethane molded onto it, and then body color, and it becomes one of the best looking bumpers doesn't look like a bumper in the industry. Again, most cars have a big chrome bumper, not GTO. There it is, the Enduraflex bumper for the first time right here in 1968. And of course, 1968 was also the first year for hideaway headlights on any GTO, grabbing a look from the larger Pontiac, some of which did have hideaway lights before the GTO got them, but they're beautiful right here. Just a real sinister look. You hit a switch, they come down, and you got 4 headlights, and just a great looking car. Now, this one is a convertible, and I would say perhaps 10% of GTOs in 1968 were convertibles. Most were hardtops, and so a very uncommon body style. And you got to love this here, GTO, 6.5 liters. Of course, that means either 389 or 400 cubic inches, depending on what year it is. Of course, this one here being a 68, it's going to have the 400. We'll get to that in a second. Let's continue our walk around. Of course, the quarter panels on these cars, 68, 69, 70, have a very beautiful rounded Coke bottle look. And of course, 68 introduces GTO's first decal name tag right here. That's a vinyl graphic right there, factory stuff on the rear quarters. And 68, the only year for the arrowhead right there on the rear quarter, which does light up, part of the federal mandate for illuminated corners on vehicles for safety. And here at the back, something kind of cool, a 69 trunk spoiler. This was an option in 69, not 1968, but it looks good and does the job. And let's look inside this trunk and see what we find. Yeah, nicely presented with the paint under the trunk lid matching everything, which is correct. It's really in excellent shape here. The original trunk floor right here with the Zolatone, cool stuff. The herringbone trunk mat and spare tire cover, just about the way it was when it rolled off the line back in 1968. Well, that's this end of the car. Let's check out the business end under the hood. Along with the new body for 68, GTO got a new hood with the integrated scoops, a hood tachometer, which was an option. But underneath that hood, what do we have? And there it is, the 400 4-barrel. Now, the Pontiac 400 was a potent torque maker of an engine. Chevy had a 400 based on their small block a couple of years later, 1970, but the Pontiac 400 was born to move large automobiles. So when you put this engine in a mid-sized car like the GTO, you have an instant performer. This one still has the original quadrijet 4-barrel carburetor on it with 800 CFM, so it idles around on the tiny primaries for good fuel economy, and then the big secondaries are wide open. This one has the Ram Air style exhaust manifolds, which are streamlined. They're not the logs found on the base 400 GTO engine. And this one is an automatic. But here we have the clutch fan here with aluminum blades for 1968. And what that does, it freewheels at higher RPM, so it's not drawing horsepower, but at slow speeds it spins and draws air through the radiator. So Pontiac was very interested in reducing parasitic drag on all of their cars from the top to the bottom. And if you can save horsepower at the front of the crank, you get more at the rear tires. And of course, power disc brakes were optional in 1968. This car has them. Drums were still available on GTO if you really wanted to go there. They're a little bit lighter, but I'll take the disc brakes any day. Let's have a peek inside. And inside, bucket seats and a center console. But something interesting about the Pontiac GTO with an automatic was the optional his/hers shifter. and it's a Hurst, and it's an automatic. Wait, what? Well, George Hurst, of course, we know, made his fortunes doing many things, one of which was 4-speed manual shift assemblies that were better than the factory stuff. So what's a Hurst shifter doing on an automatic? Well, you can see right here, it says Hurst. Well, Hurst was lending his name to this. Now, this is a dual pattern automatic. For her, oops, I'm gonna roll away. And what you would do is she would put it in drive and just cruise on down the road. He would put the shifter here where you can go from 1 to 2nd to 3rd with this detente plate, keeping you in gear until you shift it up. So this is the hers 2-mode automatic, seen in 67 and 68 and a little bit beyond that. But again, the women's lib movement of the 1960s was just getting started, and it's kind of a sexist thing. I don't know, you call it what you want, but it's cool. The his/her shifter, factory available in GTO. Now, speaking of this automatic, this is the Turbo 400, which arrived in 67, the year before this. Prior to that, 64, 5, and 6, GTOs with automatics had a 2-speed Buick-sourced Super Turbine 300. So the 3-speed Turbo 400 of 67 onward was a much better transmission, and this one has it. And of course, being a GTO, it's got the wood grain dash, all this cool effect here on the front. Beautiful sport steering wheel, 120-mile-an-hour speedometer, and looking through the windshield, there's that hood-mounted tachometer right there, one of the coolest in the business, GTO's tach. Now, the only problem with that was popular with the midnight auto supply. People would pry those off the hoods, and sometimes in the morning come back, and it would be gone. But that was then, this is now. And these wheels are beautiful. These are correct. Now, they might look sort of like magnesium with a polished outer ring, the Dow 7 grayish feature. Well, no, these are actually just a stamped steel styled wheel, but that's okay. They're beautiful. The trim ring is stainless steel, and these are functional. These slots allow heat from the brakes to come on out and prevent brake fade. And best of all, to me, is the tire choice on this one. These are the correct style. Redline Goodyear Polyglass G7014s. A lot of people say these don't handle right. Well, in their day, these were excellent grippy tires. They did great traction. They cornered pretty well. Now today, of course, yes, a modern radial might be a little bit better, but to me, the best thing about these tires is the way the vertical and horizontal surfaces meet with this ridge right here, rather than the rounded look of a radial. These are the right tires to have on any GTO, and they're present and accounted for. Now, to learn more about this 1968 GTO convertible 400 automatic numbers matching car, check it out on the link below.